Hello.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Joe, the weatherman Moravsky. I was a competitor in Season 5 of American Ninja Warrior, which was 2013, and this past year, 2014. And they call me the weatherman because of my background in meteorology. I went to Western Connecticut State University, and I graduated with a degree in meteorology.
That's very cool.
That's where I get that weatherman nickname.
So how did you get involved with American Ninja Warrior?
Well, a friend of mine was on the show, and I saw him at a gathering, and I talked to him substantially about the show and how he got on. And there's a submission process, an application you have to fill out, and a submission video, we call it. And if you're fortunate, if you're one of the lucky ones to get selected, you just get a call back, and they say, hey, come on down and try out.
Wow. So what are some of the things that you did to prepare mentally and physically for the show?
Wow. Well, there's a lot of physical training as well as mental. When I was growing up, I did basketball, baseball, soccer. I did a little cross country. So the physical aspect was covered for me. There was just a few things I had to work on, like my biceps. I had to really get them super strong because there's a lot of upper body intensive workouts on the show. But not only that, but there was the mental side of it. And I really think the meteorology helped me with that, because being in front of the camera, knowing not only being in front of the camera, but having just this higher level academics you need to take, like calculus up through Calc 3 to ordinary differential equations. I can't even say them anymore. There's a lot of mental strain when you're out there competing. So to have this background in meteorology, I think it really sets me apart and helps me.
When you finally got to the show, how did you feel going into your first round?
Oh, wow. I don't think I've ever been more nervous competing. I remember specifically when I got to the first obstacle, I said, all right, I'm going to do a 3-step technique, which means it's the quintuple steps, which is there's a step here, step here, step here. There's 5 of them. I was going to go 3 steps, hop to the next, 3 steps, and just keep that pattern going. And, I get to the end of the obstacle, and I just kind of replay it super quick in my head. And I was like, wow, I just did a 1-step all the way through.
Wow.
So the fact that I had a plan and just my body took over kind of scared me, but at the same time it settled me down, because I knew that I just had to do what I do, so to speak. So it was definitely terrifying. I finished the course, and I remember it was basically just a blacked out, I didn't really remember anything. There was bits and pieces.
So going with that, what do you think was your best performance on American Ninja Warrior?
My best performance, I think, have to be the Stage 2 in Vegas performances that I've pulled off the past 2 years. In Season 5, I was one of 7 people to beat Stage 2. This year, I was one of 2 people to beat Stage 2. And this year's performance was definitely the closest call to not being able to finish, but actually completing it. I made it to Stage 3 2 times in a row in the past 2 years, which is the holy grail of American Ninja Warrior obstacle courses. It's really like the unbeatable course in competition. And that's substantial, and that's good. And I'm really happy that I've made it that far, but no one's beat it yet, at least in competition. Brian Arnold beat it in the USA versus the World competition this year, which is awesome. But I don't think they really count that in terms of the actual competition. That was more like a special.
Yeah. Do you think a lot would be different if you weren't on the show?
Yes and no. I think me being on the show is great. I have a lot of fans that have reached out to me, a lot of people that I've inspired, which is, it makes it so worthwhile to be on the show. But at the same time, if I wasn't on the show, I'm sure it's a TV show. I'm sure they would find someone else to be the weatherman, or to fill that role of kind of what I am.
How do you separate yourself from the other competitors on the show?
I definitely think it's not even a physical difference between us. I think it's really mental. That's really the biggest difference between us. I think, like I said earlier, the meteorology background and all the crazy classes you have to take just really mentally helped prepare me for this show, and being in front of the camera, of course, too.
Are you planning on going back to the show?
Definitely. Yeah, I don't think I had maybe a split second where, when I was done with the course, I was like, you know what, I'm really happy with my performance, I might just call it. And I let it sit for a few seconds, and then I was like, that's not realistic. I've been so close 2 times in a row.
Yeah.
So I can't give up.
Will you do anything different this time?
I'm definitely doing a lot more rock climbing. My forearms every week I go through. I go rock climbing every Wednesday, and my forearms are burning all through the weekend. Today is Tuesday now, and I still have a little soreness in my forearms. So that's good. I know I'm working it the right way, and hopefully I'll be even stronger next year.
What are your career goals for the future?
That's a great question. I have a few options. And the only problem with options at this point for me is that each one has a very long path into my future. I've looked into stunting in commercials. I did a commercial with the Weather Channel, which was really cool. It's my first big gig in terms of acting or stunting. I did a little bit of both, but we'll say more stunting. And that could be a very long path through my life. And on top of that, I'm looking into opening a gym, which would be very cool. I think now's the time to do it, definitely, because I have a lot of support. I have a lot of people that want to get into this sport. So that's another path. And of course, we have meteorology, which I know it's going to be there on the back burner for the rest of my life, and I don't need to be physically in shape to be on the air for meteorology. So that's kind of like my ultimate goal one day, is to get back to meteorology and to be on air and to really forecast and focus on the weather. So a lot of different options right now. We'll see which one ends up working out.
So what keeps you motivated?
I think the biggest motivator for me at this point, it changed over the years. My season 5 performance, I think the biggest thing was to really prove that I'm not just a weatherman. You know, just to prove I'm a real athlete. And on top of it was to make history, to be the first American Ninja Warrior. And on top of that, of course, and this is in the back of my mind, but there's a $500,000 grand prize. Mm-hmm. And I don't think money's enough to motivate me. Maybe some people. But money is great, but it's not going to... $500,000 is pay some bills, you buy maybe a small house, and you're not set for life.
Right.
You know, if it's $100 million, okay, then maybe you start thinking about the money. Mm-hmm. But this year, I've noticed that, especially after I fell again in stage 3, man, it's more of forget history, forget the money. This course has beat me twice. That's not acceptable. Mm-hmm. And it really bothers me. And I was talking to some of the competitors. Travis Rosen, for example, is an icon, a legend of this sport. He told me that his motivations changed, and he's really just all about beating the course. And this was prior to competing in Vegas this year. I talked to him like just before we went. And I was like, how is that enough for him? I don't get it. But now that I've fallen twice at stage 3, I totally understand, and I'm pretty sure we're on the same page.
What were some of the challenges that you had to overcome when you were training?
I don't think I have too many challenges to overcome while I train. The biggest thing I'm cautious of is not to get injured, because I have a bunch of friends that have been working out. They slip, they break a finger, they reach up for something and they tear something in their shoulder, and they're out for months. Mm-hmm. The most recent example, I was training in Brooklyn, New York, and a friend of mine was up on the double salmon ladder. And if you're not familiar with the salmon ladder, it's when you have a bar, you jump the bar up the rungs. Mm-hmm. The double salmon ladder, you have to turn around and jump across and then go up again. And a buddy of mine was on it, and he was up on the second part of the double salmon ladder, and he was swinging to try to finish the obstacle, and he slipped backwards, landed awkwardly, and snapped his leg. And I'm not, like, when I say snapped, I don't want to see that one again. Mm-hmm. So I've seen a lot of injuries, and I think that's the biggest challenge, is to stay healthy. And I'm kind of just always sore from working out, but I'm healthy, which is very good. I think the cool thing about this sport, American Ninja Warrior, is that it's a culmination of all different sports. Every sport can help you in some way. And I've asked people to pick a sport, and I'll tell you how it helps. And somebody said, how does baseball help? And that's a good question. With me, I was a very fast athlete throughout my sporting career. Okay, in baseball, I was somebody that always stole bases. And I tell them that ability to have agility like that, to steal a base, is very important, that explosiveness. And they're like, ah. So, for example, getting up the warped wall, I can do it in as few steps as anybody because of my explosiveness, because of how quick I can accelerate. Same thing with the quintuple steps, the first obstacle where you're jumping back and forth. It's just an explosive punch off each step. So it's kind of something unique about this sport is it encompasses every other sport within it. It's really cool.
Was there ever a moment you almost gave up, and how were you able to push through?
I'm not really the type of person that gives up. I think, man, the only thing I really think of is hanging on that hang climb in stage 3. It was the obstacle I fell on this year. Fell on it twice. I was fortunate enough to get picked for Team USA, which was awesome. But in the regular competition, I fell on the hang climb. It's this rock wall. You're climbing up the rock wall upside down. Pretty crazy. I got to the point where I just couldn't hold on, and it's not even so much of a willing yourself or motivating yourself. It's just you don't have anything left in the tank, and it really stinks to get to that point and then realize, man, I'm just not strong enough. But at the same time, I'm kind of happy I made it that far. So I think that I think the hang climb is definitely something that's kind of made me give up unwillingly.
What is your greatest accomplishment as an athlete?
I think my greatest accomplishment has definitely got to be that I've made it to stage 3 2 times in a row here on U.S. soil. I know there's some discrepancies between the Ninja Warrior competition in Japan and here, but I'm the only one on American soil that's made it to stage 3 twice, and twice in a row, nonetheless. So I think that's definitely my greatest accomplishment, and hopefully next year we can be talking and I'll say my greatest accomplishment is being the first American Ninja Warrior.
Can you tell us about your work in the gym?
Well, I teach gymnastics and parkour and a little tumbling. So like cheerleaders will come in, I'll teach them how to do some back handsprings or backflips, even cartwheels or round-offs. And I've been here for about 5 years, a little over 5 years now. And over those 5 years, my boss Vasi, and who's turned into not just my boss, but one of my best friends. He was in my wedding. Great guy. He's helped me build some things I have in the gym here. We have the ultimate cliffhanger. I have this salmon ladder. And I don't need too much because there are gyms around that I can train at. And I know that it's not even so much for me anymore about training on the obstacles. It's more about just being strong enough to do them. Because I know with my athletic background that I could take on any obstacle and be successful. It's just a matter of, am I strong enough and do I have the correct technique?
So what's the most important thing about being physically active and healthy?
I think the most important thing for me about being physically active and healthy is that I can be at my peak when it comes to the show. I think for other people, it's just a matter of you want to stay healthy. You should want to stay healthy at least because your body takes such a beating if it's not in good shape or if you're eating McDonald's every day. And it's bad stuff. As good as McDonald's is, it's not good for you. And so, especially for an athlete, I think it's obviously very important to stay healthy and to stay physically fit. But for the people that are just sitting around, it's really up to them to find a way to motivate themselves and to get out there and get into better shape because they'll feel like $100. They probably have never felt as good as they will if they go out for a run and then they get back and they sit on the couch because they deserve that,
What other hobbies do you have?
That's really funny. I was on Vine last night. I don't usually put anything out there on Vine. Usually it's just Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. But I decided, hey, you know what? I'm just going to throw up me singing. Why not? Let's see what happens. And it was kind of funny, but that's kind of some of the things I like to do in my spare time. I like to musically, I like music. I play the trumpet, piano. I sing for fun. Never in a chorus or in a choir, I should say. In chorus class, I was going to say. But that'd be fun. And people have been seeing some of the videos I've been posting. They're like, you should try for American Idol or The Voice, whatever the NBC show is. I wouldn't go far. But it's a hobby. It's fun. I like to do it.
Does music play a role in your training?
Music definitely plays a role in my training when it comes to trying to motivate myself to work out and to train hard. If I'm alone especially, it's key. When I'm with other people, I use their, we challenge each other. So I don't have to worry about getting motivated. But music definitely helps. I've edited a few songs to really help myself stay motivated with bits and pieces of different songs, kind of like a mashup. So music definitely helps.
If you had the chance to give away $500,000, who or where would you put it?
I probably immediately think of my family. My parents have been there for me my entire life and supported me through everything, good times and bad. So I would definitely think of them immediately. And my extended family, I could say the same for them. They've all been there for me. So it has to be family first. Mm-hmm. And then if you have anything left over, then we'll see what we can do to our friends.
What was the best compliment you ever received?
Might have to revisit that question. I got to think about that. The best compliment I've received, somebody told me I looked like, what's the guy from Boy Meets World? He was Corey Matthews, but I don't remember his real name. Boy Meets World guy. Anyway, he was a good-looking guy, so I'm okay with that. And I've actually heard Adam Levine when I'm a little scruffy. Mm-hmm. I'm good with that, too. Yeah, that'd be nice.
There you go. So, what advice would you give to kids and teens who would like to follow in your footsteps?
Do as many sports as you can. That's the bottom line. Don't focus on American Ninja Warrior when you're 12. Mm-hmm. Focus on doing some pull-ups, having fun playing soccer. If you want to if you want to get ready for Ninja Warrior, do some pull-ups. But in the meantime, play soccer, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever you want to do. Football even though football's a little more dangerous, and I never really played it just because I know the injury rates are pretty ridiculous. But just stay active and train your body to be good at everything. Because the more things you're good at, the better of a chance you have on the course.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.